Hello and welcome to episode 70 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm James.
We were so excited I had to say, we got to stop and we got to actually do this on the podcast.
Yep.
So we have stuff to talk about this week. We're going to circle back to the deck we adopted and talk about our experiences with that. And then we're going to, I guess before that, we're going to talk about some newsy stuff that has come up. So if you want to get at us with decks to adopt or other such things, you can tweet at us at CasualTryPod.
Yep. You can find us on Facebook at CasualTryHardMTG. As always, you can shoot us an email at show@CasualTryHardMTG.com. We check it all the time and look forward to hearing from you guys. Don't forget we have a TCG affiliate, tcg.CasualTryHardMTG.com. If you follow that link, anything you buy from TCG Player after that, we will get a very small percentage of. Help us keep the show going. We also have a Patreon. If you would like to contribute a little bit more directly, it's patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. We have a YouTube channel. There's not a whole lot on there right now. The last thing that we posted up on there was our sealed that we did, our Ikoria sealed when the set came out. Hopefully at some point we'll get some more stuff up there. That's also Casual Try Hard MTG. And new last week, I forgot all about, we said we were going to do this. We turned our Discord on.
Yeah, if you want the invite link, I have made it our pinned tweet. I did that while we were sitting there. So if you go to our Twitter page, our pinned tweet is the link to our Discord. We've already had a few people in there talking. I'll be on Discord in and out. I guess if it gets a little more busy, I will be on there more. But it is there. People have already posted a deck list. So,
and it was sweet.
Yeah.
Can we? Is there any way we can put the Discord link in the description?
I can probably do that. I'm relatively smart. We can figure this out. Yeah, I can probably do that. Out. Yeah. So I'll try to put it in the description going forward.
Yeah.
So
nice and easy. You're already there.
I have a few channels set up. I have like the Adopt a Deck channel. I have the Show Ideas channel, and we have the general thing. You guys let me know what channels and what things you want in there so people have places to talk about different things. And we'll do our best to make it happen.
Sounds good.
Do you want to start with this housekeeping thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was down visiting our friendly neighborhood local game store, and turns out the Theros season is over, and he had a bunch of promo packs left that he was, he's going through getting everything, or as much as he can, put into his system to be posted for sale. So he cracked all the promo packs and wasn't going to do anything with the promo codes. So I have a rather large stack here of Theros FNM promo arena codes, good for one pack of Theros.
Perhaps people could get at you in the Discord.
Yeah.
To get these. So we now have a channel that is free stuff. So go post in free stuff, and James will send you a code. Yeah. There we go.
We'll start with one apiece. I'll see if I have any left over after that. Like I said, I have a pretty big stack here, so I see myself getting back around to handing some duplicates out. But get at us. I'll send them over.
Sounds good. Okay, I didn't know what this was. I was like, what? Okay. So our first thing's a little newsy. It kind of builds on what we talked about last week with like design philosophy changes and how Magic has changed. And my title for this is a little over the top, but I liked it. And it's Morrow tweets, "A lost and broken designer." So,
it might be a little over the top, but it's also oddly fitting.
Yes. So this all kind of started on, I guess, May 7th. Morrow has a tendency to make Twitter polls.
Yeah.
And so he had a Twitter poll May 7th that was, while R&D tries to support innovation and balance, the two often fight with each other. Which of these two do you personally believe R&D should prioritize? And so the results of the poll were balance 58%, innovation 42%, give or take. And it really led to a really big Twitter discussion about kind of how sets recently haven't been well balanced.
Yep.
With the example being companions. Mm-hmm. And people came out with the knives out, which was, a little rough to see.
Yeah.
But Morrow talked about how he was the one who came up with the idea for companions.
Oh, he took like full blame for this, right?
Yeah. He's like,
blame in air quotes.
Yeah, he's like, this was my idea. I came up with it in vision design. So when they do design of sets, they do a design that is vision design, which is what would the mechanics be? What would be the things that would fit in the world and the story that we're trying to build?
Right.
And then they pass it off to like actual like play design to then figure out how to balance these mechanics and make them work. Mm-hmm. So I think we talked about last time that the version of Mutate that Rosewater was talking about on Twitter when Ikoria came out was different than the version of Mutate that actually existed.
Yeah, the rules of it operated differently.
Yeah, because they had changed from when he came up with it, like broad strokes,
right,
and when it got balanced in R&D. And so a lot of people came out, for like balance and saying that, the current format is broken. Mm-hmm. And somewhere on the 10th, Morrow tweeted that our ultimate goal is to make Magic the best game in the world, enjoyable for players in whatever form they wish to play. If there are hiccups along the way, it's not because we don't care or aren't trying or don't understand what needs to be done. It's just a lofty goal. I enjoy the passion of the online community. We share a common desire to see Magic be its best. I welcome feedback and pass it along to the relevant parties. I want to caution that solutions to problems at hand are never as simple as you think they might be. Thanks. Mm-hmm. So, other than like Morrow kind of like trying to take blame and kind of gauge where people want Magic to be, this kind of led to a big Twitter back and forth with Eric Froelich, which then Froelich turned into a 10-page Google Doc.
Oh, boy. I guess I didn't realize this was 10 pages. I definitely did not read the whole thing.
It is. I read the whole thing. And it's 10 pages of like basically like screenshots of their Twitter conversation and then like Froelich expanding his point more and then using screenshots. But there was a tweet from Morrow that was at the top of page 8 that was, make sure I'm on page 8. There are so many pages. I don't have a crystal ball about what will happen to mechanics I turn over. Power level is decided completely downstream. I am questioning whether I should push less hard into unknown areas early on so potential problems don't happen later. And this kind of struck me as kind of where I get like the kind of the lost aspect of my Lost and Broken is he's like, almost like I can't trust the people downstream that if I have a cool idea that it won't just break.
Right.
And Froelich's response is, okay, I feel like this is a very different question to me. My answer will always be you should push, but you need to have a team in place that can fix/prevent the things that are pushed too far.
Right.
I never want someone to hold back. Never want someone in creative to hold back, but things can't be released like this. Yeah. And so this is all kind of framed around companions and the fact that Magic is just Pokemon. You start with a little Pokemon each game.
It is certainly a very different game than we had 6 months ago.
Yes. And so that then led to today's Twitter question, which was, what is the largest tournament format that should be impacted, a.k.a. cards in the set get played in, not necessarily what warps the metagame by every standard legal set? Vintage, Legacy, Modern, Pioneer, Standard. Right. And so he's like, let me clarify this question. I'm asking what formats you believe every standard legal set should add cards to and not warp the metagame. Just add cards the format can play. Pick the format.
Right. So this is like legality-wise. Like, should every card that gets printed into Standard be legal in Pioneer? Should every
I
card...
read it differently.
Okay.
I read it as, if we print a standard set, should we be guaranteeing that 4 of the cards are legacy playable? Right? What is the biggest... What card pool should we be saying, like, oh, this card's going to see eternal play? Right? Should every standard set put cards into Pioneer, and every so often put a card into Modern, and then even less frequently put a card into Legacy? Or should every standard set be putting cards into Modern, and then occasionally putting cards into Legacy?
Well, that's not how I read it at all.
Okay, so...
My answer was obviously Vintage Legacy. I think, everything that gets added into Standard should be in Vintage and Legacy, and thereby, like, everything newer than that.
No, I read it as, like, think about, I guess, Fate Reforged.
Yeah.
Right? If you think about Fate Reforged gave Monastery Mentor, which sees a reasonable amount of vintage play.
Yeah.
Is played in
Ugin.
one Legacy deck, and, like, Ugin.
Yeah.
Which is played in, like, one specific Modern deck.
Yeah.
And some fringe Legacy decks.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It would put 2 cards, really, into Eternal formats. I can't think of another Fate card. And, like, the last 3 sets have put, like...
Entire archetypes.
Yeah, 6 to 10 cards into the larger formats.
Yeah.
And so I think all of this stuff together, the idea that, as I read the question, hey, what power level should we be making our standard cards? Should we be making them so they impact Legacy and Modern?
Yeah.
And then I don't know if I should be pushing as hard. Kind of leads me to believe that, like, WotC, or at least Morrow, is struggling with, like, what's broken. Like, everyone's telling them things are broke.
Yeah.
And they
don't see it.
Or they don't know how they got broken.
Yeah.
Right? They look at their process, and then in the end, they're like, our process seemed good, but everyone says everything's broken.
Yeah.
Why is everything broken? So I wanted to get your take. You seem to have some opinions on, like, where you might think from all this stuff Morrow's head's at, or, like, R&D is kind of at.
Well, I super understand where he's coming from. In order to have, like, a creative brain, you, like, think about things differently, I guess. And if he's only concentrating on how to come up with, the next beloved mechanic or the next awesome plane to be on, he can't be super, like, bogged down with, like, I guess how it's going to be, not really how it's going to be used, but, like, power level things. Like, those are all knobs that get turned after he's done with it.
Yeah, he comes up with the bigger idea and then passes it on to someone. So he doesn't know. Yeah. He's like, wouldn't it be cool if you had a companion and, it's just a little buddy that comes maybe out of your sideboard or something. And then that gets sent off.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the knobs get turned. Or maybe he comes up with the parameters of, maybe it's a deck building constraint and it's like a sideboard card.
Yeah.
And then someone else comes up with the casting costs, the abilities.
What the restriction is.
What the restriction is, right?
Yeah.
So, he's like, should I not come up with these, like, out there ideas? Which, it's a hard spot to be in.
Well, I mean, the question is kind of a no-brainer. Should he not come up with the ideas? Of course he should come up with the ideas. Like, that's how things get done, is you have an idea and you expand upon it and you shape it and mold it into something. Like, if you just stop coming up with ideas, then, like, that's when magic dies.
Yeah. I
mean, this kind of, like, we've been saying it forever. We've said it on the podcast for, 70 episodes now, that, like, something different has to be done in, like, playtest. Like, obviously playtesting is not working.
It is clearly not, and I don't understand why. I understand the argument that, hey, there's 10 of us, and every time a set comes out, way more people play these cards than have ever played them before, so we miss things. Right. But it seems like, the things that got missed are way bigger than they used to be. Right? Like, the things that were missed going, like Siege Rhino, like we've talked about, like there was some dumb enchantment that they played a lot in play design that made it so Siege Rhino had to have trample or it wasn't playable. Right. And then the card that they were playing, no one played because it was bad. Right. But Siege Rhino still had trample. Yeah. Right. Or
turned out it was real good.
Yeah. Or you have what was the cycle of the like enchantments from Fate?
The sieges?
The sieges. Where like the red one was constructed playable, but like the white one was like totally oppressive in draft. Like you're just like, why is this card here? This is way too good. Yeah. But like if you miss on a draft rare, that's fine.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
But now it's like we miss and we break 4 formats.
Yeah. I wonder if you have to completely reimagine what play design is. And instead of focusing on something that's unattainable, like they've kind of been doing, where I don't know how many people are on play design, but if you have, or play testing or whatever, but if you have 10 people in a room, jamming as much limited as you can, jamming as much standard as you can, trying to squeeze some Pioneer, Modern, Legacy in there also. Like how many games are you ever going to play? Even if you triple, quadruple that number, like you're still not going to play the number of games that, the machine plays in the first week of sets out. Yeah. So what if you like completely rethink the system instead of focusing like 100% on people playing the game to, balance these cards out? What if you did something like a poll? Like what if these Twitter polls were used as, a design tool? Like, hey, we're thinking about making, this companion mechanic. What are things that we should stay away from?
I think the problem there is just like how protective like a company is of like their proprietary information. And I'm sure that they looked at companion as like this big selling point. This is the cool new thing, this thing that's different. And they wouldn't want to be like putting that out and like burning that excitement early on.
Okay, so don't put it out on Twitter then. Like you have this group of people that you pay called the MPL. Yeah. Why don't you float it past them? Hey, look at this sweet card Loris we designed. This certainly won't break any formats. I guarantee you every single one of them would say that card needs to be banned in Legacy, Pioneer, and Modern.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like they've brought in a bunch of like former pros and competitive players, but people have pointed out that once you go into WotC, you aren't allowed to play competitively anymore. Right. And so
that's kind of the problem.
Yeah, and so like those people go from, being at the tippy top of their game trying to play as much competitive Magic as possible to like they become more casual.
Yeah. And they're out to pasture.
Yeah. And maybe like they're missing things that they wouldn't have missed a year and a half ago because, right? I mean, realistically, they're probably spending less time with the cards than they would have in a spoiler season.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Like you see a card in the spoilers and then you spend the next 3 days trying to break it. Mm-hmm. Right? And now maybe they see that same card. Maybe they get to spend like a day with it, maybe only a couple hours to see if they can come up with how you break it. Yeah. And that's just not enough time for one person to break it. Where if you were to put it on Reddit or put it on like your website, it would get broken within an hour because 100,000 people would see it and be like, well, what if you did this? Or, then what if you did this? Yeah. And so it just seems like they are kind of missing, like they're missing those like fundamental interactions.
Well, that's kind of what I meant though by like float it past the MPL. Yeah. Like They did that with Lutri. When they were going to put Lutri in the set, they went to the Commander Rules Committee or whatever and said, hey, this is a card that we're going to print. And they came back and said, okay, that's already banned in Commander. Like, we're not going to let that ever happen. So why can't they do the same thing with the MP? Like, the MPO is already in some sort, not an NDL or an NDA, but like they already have some sort of gag order on them where they can't talk about everything that they want to.
Yeah.
So why not just float this past them? Like, if you floated Luris past anybody that's in the MPL, what do you think Huey would say?
That's no good.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And some of the things are really small things that just seem like oversights. So the rant video has become like quite a thing. Yeah. So was it Rogue Deck Builder? Instead of his like Tuesday Brews Days, it's now Tuesday Rants.
Yeah.
And he pointed out that like Agent of Treachery would be an okay Magic card if it said non-land. But the fact that your opponent like goes War Boss into Winota and then steals 3 of your lands, right, is like, oh, I guess now the game's over.
Like, also, who would have ever thought like that was the card, like Agent of Treachery?
Yeah,
we didn't talk about Agent of Treachery at all during that spoiler season.
Yeah, I think we just kind of missed how much ramp was around. And now you don't have to ramp it. Now you're just getting them on turn 4.
Yeah. 7 mana control magic.
Yeah. And that you get to play for 0 mana.
Right.
And when you think about it, the decks now, no one casts that card.
Right.
That card just comes into the battlefield for free.
Well, I'm still casting that card.
Okay. That's good for you, but the vast majority of people are not about that life.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people are like, yo, I'm just going to like attack with a goblin and hit an Agent of Treachery.
Yeah, and then draw some cards.
And then draw some cards. Yeah, so I don't know if they are seeing what the problem is, because I feel like their system is broken. Like the way they're doing things is broken, and it might be the combination of like the fire design philosophy. What is it? Fun? I forget what the I is.
No, I don't remember. You put me on the spot here. I wasn't ready for this. I didn't do my homework.
It's fun, something, replayability.
Yeah.
And something else. Anyway, it's how they're trying to like design cards now. So like the commons are better, so you're not playing with as many as James calls them garbage limited cards in your garbage limited deck.
Yeah.
Right, because like Cloudkin Seer, right, is like an example of that. The 2 and a blue 2/1 flyer that draws you a card when it comes into play.
Yeah.
Right, like that is like from the fire design space, and like those things are fine. But when it's the things at higher rarity where they think they can kind of go a little nuts, or they feel like they have to, that they've just have missed over and over and over again.
Yeah, it seems like they'll never get it right.
Yeah, like play design was a result of Kaladesh.
Right.
Right. So they're like, oh man, we messed up Kaladesh. We don't want to do that again. And then we've gone from Kaladesh to where we are now, which
is really weird, because like in the middle there were a couple stinkers too. Well, like Ixalan was not super powerful. Amonkhet was certainly not over powerful.
Yeah, well, and that's part of what they point to is they're like, oh, well, Ixalan was powered down, so we don't want sets like that. Like trying to avoid those low power sets because they didn't feel like enough cards from Ixalan were like went into standard. Right?
Yeah.
And it's also, but that was because that standard was you had to play all the energy cards.
Yeah.
So none of the cards from Ixalan gave you energy. So it didn't matter how powerful they were.
Like they weren't going to see play regardless.
Yeah. Hostage Taker saw play because it was really, really powerful. But it was powerful but not busted.
Right.
Right, like I feel like now Hostage Taker would like let you cast the spell without paying its mana cost.
Yeah, just for free.
Yeah. It'd be like Hostage Take It, you get to cast it for free.
Give it flash.
Yeah. Or it would have flash. Or it'd be like it'd be the same mana cost but have flash on it. And like your opponent would play a thing and you'd flash in your Hostage Taker and then immediately get to cast it. And not have the tension of, does my Hostage Taker make it through a turn cycle?
Yeah.
And a lot of things have lost that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you no longer have the, does this make it all the way through the turn cycle, or the tension, any tension. You're just like, you get your payoff right away.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when Patrick Sullivan, it was Patrick Sullivan.
One of the Patricks.
Complained about Ravenous Chupacabra.
Yeah.
And how, like...
very vocal.
Yeah, and how that card is terrible because there's, no tension and it, like, ruins all this stuff. Like, big Chups might not be big playable.
Right.
It would be...
Yeah, if that was in standard right now.
Yeah. It'd be like, cool, like, you're going to play a 2/2 that killed a thing. Cool, I'm now going to spend 15 mana this turn. I think I win.
Well, I mean, we have almost Chupacabra in the format right now, and it doesn't see any play.
What's that?
Wicked Wolf?
Oh, yeah, it is pretty close to Chups.
It's very close, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it kills all the little stuff.
See play.
Yeah, well, I mean, it lost Oko. It lost its buddy.
Yeah, but it saw play even after Oko left.
Yeah, but it just seems like Morrow and Co. don't understand how they're missing.
Yeah.
Like, they see the cards leave the door, and they're like, we did it.
Pat them on the back. Good job, guys.
And then, like, 2 days later, Twitter is just...
They come back looking for a fix.
Yeah, Twitter's just, like, burning everything down, and they're like, but why?
Yeah.
We don't understand. So someone pointed out in, like, these Twitter threads, and Mara said that, like, this is something that they're, like, I think becoming more aware of, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
That, like, Magic is now just way more consistent between Companions and the London Mulligan.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a different conversation, though. And we can certainly have that conversation, but I think it's different than what we were just talking about. I don't know that it being, like, hyper consistent is the same thing as just printing straight up broken cards. Like, I get that Once Upon a Time is problematic, but is it, like, bannable problematic if we didn't have the London Mull and you, like, couldn't just find it all the time? Like, it makes your deck more consistent, but without the London Mulligan, does it make it that much more consistent?
Yeah, I was kind of approaching it as, like, so you added a layer of consistency with the London Mulligan. And then on top of that, now you've added Companions, which adds an additional layer of consistency. So all the games are always the same, which is something that we talked about last week with, like, the engines, right? That they always end up kind of being the same.
Let me give you a counterpoint, though.
Okay.
How do you make things less consistent? Fundamentally, like, if you were going to make things less consistent, what's an easy thing that you could do to make things less consistent?
You could roll back the Mulligan rule to the Vancouver.
Okay. All right. Well, let me rephrase my question. If you were going to build a deck, and your idea for that deck is, I want to make my deck less consistent,
you'd play 80 cards.
You would. And, like, what's the best companion right now?
I guess it's Yorion in Standard.
Yeah, the one that makes you run it. Yeah, sorry, in Standard.
Yeah, well,
it's the one that makes you run 80 cards. So, like, is that the same argument? You know what I mean?
But the reason you can run 80 cards and it's not a total train wreck is there are so many cards that are at the same high power level.
Yeah.
That, like, you can, like,
doesn't matter
mix
which ones
and
you
match. Get. Yeah, so, right, you need a way to deal with aggressive decks. So you get to play up to 8 Deafening Clarion, Shatter the Sky, like 3 mana and 4 mana, like, Wraths for aggressive decks. So you have a bunch of those, so that angle is covered. You need to be able to like find your stuff. So you have the omens that do something. One of them scries to when it comes in, and they all get to scry later on in the game to kind of help your consistency. So like Yorion, you just have all these cards that do close to the same thing that kind of allows it to be more consistent than it should with an 80 card deck.
Yeah.
Now trust me, I have had my opponents, they're on turn 5 and they have cast their third Teferi, and I'm just like, no,
how does this happen?
This is not supposed to happen in an 80 card deck. You're not supposed to just like have bounce your thing, draw a card, bounce your thing, draw a card.
Yeah.
But it's like, but like there's so many cards that do almost the same thing or close to it.
Yeah.
That you're not diluted down. It's not like there's one playable like Wrath, right? And it's not that, how much worse would those decks be if we didn't have Shadow of the Sky and we just had Time Wipe, right? Like, right?
Well, I mean, you'd still have Kaya's Wrath, though.
You'd still have Kaya's Wrath.
I think you just change the colors a little bit.
I don't think you could, though, because you would lose Fires and Luca.
Well, you could be, I guess then you'd lose to Fairy if you lost blue.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
I played a teamer version of that deck because I was like, I'll just ramp harder and hit Fires a turn sooner and be able to do bigger stuff. Not having Teferi, just like you felt it at every turn. Yeah. You're just like, oh man, I wish I could like bounce something here. Oh man, this got countered. That would never happen in the Jeskai version. If you didn't have a bunch of cards that were super interchangeable, like playing 80 cards would be way worse. Or same with, I'm only going to play 2 mana permanents, but there's enough good 1 and 2 drops
where it's okay.
Not
only is it okay, but there's 4 different archetypes.
Yes, there are 4 different archetypes
in standard.
Yes, there's like cycling,
Mardu Knight, Sacrifice. There's like a weenie deck floating around.
I lost to Mono White Enchantment Loris with
that is the weenie deck I was referring to.
Oh,
and may or may not have played that for like 4 hours last night and got like 6 ranks with it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I played against it and was like, these cards are all garbage, but I can't beat them because this Healer's Hawk is a 12-15 Vigilance lifelink.
Yeah, there's no rares in that deck, I don't think.
No, other than Loris.
I think it's just Loris, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just like, oh, this is miserable.
Yeah.
But there's so many cards, I think, because of the Fire design strategy where they wanted limited to be better, which limited has been great for the last few sets.
It has, yeah.
I have my issues with Throne, mainly Revenge of Ravens. But the limited environments have been really good. But like, I don't know if that means
seemed fun, and this set's a blast to draft.
But I don't know if that just means there are so many commons that are good that you don't have the same like meager pickings of cards.
Right.
Because like all the omens are common, and that Luca deck's playing like 12 omens.
Yeah.
And that's super weird. And like Growth Spirals are common.
So I just had another random thought. How much of this do you think is due to only being on a plane for one set?
I mean, we've talked about this before, where it used to be you could work your ideas out over 3 sets. So maybe you would, put some of the companions, or they'd be dialed back a little bit because you had to you couldn't just use all the ideas in one set. Now it's like, oh man, we've got to do all of this stuff. We want to make sure it's playable. So we've got to make sure that all these cards are pushed to the right power level.
Well, even as far as commons and uncommons though, you've got to work a lot harder to flesh out your archetypes if they're only going to be across one set instead of across 2 or 3. You know what I mean? If
you think about a 3-block set, maybe you were we have, 70 commons that we want to have in here that have certain interactions and certain mechanics to work. Like, but we want to spread them out across the 3 sets.
Yeah.
And so now we've got to put a lot of like 3 mana, 3/3 vanillas to fill out the rest of, the 350 commons across these 3 sets. Mm-hmm. There's got to be like, 280 stinkers.
Yeah. No, you don't have that.
No, you don't have that. Now you've got the 70 cards that tell your story, that have abilities that matter for limited in one set, and then the next set you have those same 70 really pushed commons.
Right.
And it just keeps happening because, like, they don't really print vanilla creatures anymore.
Yeah, not hardly ever.
Right. And, like, sometimes I think they kind of do. So, like, with cycling, they're like, well, the reason we want to have cycling is we want to have big monsters. So you don't want the big monsters to get stuck in your hand and limited, so we're giving them cycling.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm with you.
Cycling's also another great mechanic for reducing consistency, though.
Or increasing consistency.
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. Yeah.
But also, then why did you give a 2-mana 2/2 cycling?
Yeah.
Why did you give a 1-mana 1/1 cycling? Like, if this was there so you could, like, have your big monsters get cycled away, then why isn't cycling just on the big monsters? Why is it on, like, cards that would have been fine without cycling?
Yeah.
Also, you have, I think I mentioned this before a while back, right? I think play design gives a false sense of security where they're to the designers, to play design, in that, we didn't break it, so it's not breakable.
Right.
Right. So a card that they may look at and go, that seems pushed. Then they play with it and no one snaps it in half in the, like, few days or, like, month that they, like, look at that card and a bunch of other cards and change its mana cost and a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, it's not breakable. We're fine. Like, this is where your idea of, like, the MPL or, like, another group where, like, if play design finished the set, was like, we are done. And they finished that set a month before they needed to send it to the printers.
Yeah.
And then they just sent the card file to the MPL and said, hey, you guys have a week.
Do your worst.
Yeah, do your worst. What's busted? And they came back with here are the cards that are seem too pushed, and here's why. Right? They're not game designers, they're gamers.
Right.
And they just look at it and they're like, oh, well, we're going to do, now we've got to change, maybe we have to change these cards. And I know there's questions about competitive balance and, then they wouldn't be able to, like, do X, Y, or Z. But there needs to be, like,
there's ways to do that without just giving them a card file, though. Like, I mean, obviously they knew that Loris in particular, like, you can't look at that card and say, oh, yeah, this card's fine. You know what I mean? Anybody that looks at that card is going to say, oh, yeah, this card, like, abuses sack outlets and is ridiculous with 0 mana artifacts and is probably going to break every format. Like, you can't look at that card and not think those things. So even if they don't send that card out, what if they sent, just the, like, not the companion ability, but just the other ability with, like, the stat line, like the mana cost and power and toughness.
Yeah.
And said, hey, what are things that we might have to look out for with this card? Or how would you cost this card?
I think it's different when you have to draw it, right? If I told you that you could play 4 Lorises, right, you would play 4 Lorises. But if I told you Loris is always in your opening hand, like, you'd be like, that's a different thing. I think that question gets answered differently. But no, there needs to be some mechanism where they can go, hey, someone that's not us. Because, I mean, we've all done it where you've worked on something and you've got to the point where you look at it. Yeah, where it's either your baby or you're just looking at it with rose-colored glasses or you're just done looking at it and you want to get it out the door.
Yeah.
Right? When I write a grant, the process is like, I want this to be perfect. And then it moves to, I just never want to look at this again and I want to send it out.
Yeah.
Right? And so You know, how much of it is like, well, we've run out of time. I guess this is as good as it's going to get. And we've also talked about like the Skull Clamp example, right? Where Skull Clamp gave stuff +1, +0 was the original design. And if if the creature died that Skull Clamp was attached to, you drew 2 cards. And they were like, ooh, that seems too good. Let's give it
a downside.
Let's make it gives it +1, -1. So then it just turned every 1/1 or X1 into pay 1, cards. Draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
And they missed that. Like, that was a last minute change. So I don't know how many changes are like last minute changes.
Yeah.
That impact this as well. But it doesn't seem like they're super sure on how to fix the problem. Because I think they know there's a problem just because like their mentions on Twitter are just, I'm sure, all horrific.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh man, this is not working. But I don't think they have seen how to fix it or like how it got broken. Because we can transition this into standard a little bit as we move on to our adopted deck. How many matches of standard have you played that you know that you're like, oh, my opponent has a Karuga. Okay, that means I need to have this in my opening hand because I know what the deck is.
Right.
And this is exactly how, like, what I need to do because I know what they're playing.
Yeah, I have a really quick question, like rulesy question on this specifically. So on Arena, when it comes up and says, this is your opening hand, would you like to keep or maul?
Yes.
Okay. You can see, like, shaded behind that, sometimes your opponent's companion.
Correct.
Sometimes you cannot.
So I've not noticed that. I've noticed that it's there, and then when it's not there, they don't have one. I've not seen a situation where they don't have it.
I have had my opponent have a companion, and it did not show up like behind the keeper maul screen.
Huh.
So I don't know what the proper ruling is.
I guess I haven't...
You have to present your companion before you present your deck?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, like, in paper... Right? I don't know when you have to give up that information because I've not played in paper and it's not been an issue.
Right.
But, like, yeah, when do you have to say, like, hey, no, I have a companion? Yeah, I'm not sure. But
I wasn't sure either.
Yeah, but in standard now, right, you know what you're playing against because you see the companion.
Right.
Right, and you have to use that information now to know what hands to keep and stuff like that. And going back to consistency, that is another thing that influences consistency even when you're not playing the companion deck. You're like, oh, I can't keep this hand because I know I need to have this other thing.
Because I'm playing Loris and I don't have a Wrath.
Yeah. Or I don't have a Wrath. Or like, imagine if you were playing Jund in Modern and your opponent has a Loris and you're like, well, maybe I should mulligan this hand because Thoughtseize isn't good, but Nile Spellbomb's good.
Yeah.
So
I got to find a Skoos or whatever.
Yeah, I have to find some way to interact with their graveyard.
Yeah.
And so, right, that's a thing that is happening now that has never happened before. Right? So, getting from here are, we don't know what's going on with design to the fruits of their labor. Let's talk about our adopted deck, Jeskai Cycling.
Sure.
So, first of all, the story of every episode is I was going to record a video, but Martin Yuza put out a Boros/Jeskai Cycling video.
Oh,
and I need to tweet that out because I was like, well, you could watch me, or you could watch Martin Yuza. I think he's got this one covered. Because I was like, oh, I'll just do a couple games. So... what did you think of the deck? I think I know where your head's at, but I don't want to speak for you.
Okay. So the very first thing I put in my notes is that I may have been playing this completely wrong.
Okay.
For the most part, I was mulliganing pretty aggressively to some sort of threat. And I had noticed, unfortunately, towards the end of when I was playing, I had noticed that when I played the mirror a couple times, my opponents were not mulliganing.
I hardly ever mulliganed.
Okay. So that might have been part of my problem. I had a little over a 50% win rate, not much over.
You were 52%. He played more best of 3 matches than I did. He was 12 and 11 over the week. I only played 12 best of 3 matches, but I played 13 best of 3s. But I played more best of 1s to kind of get acquainted with it. Yeah. And my best of 3, I was 9 and 4.
Okay.
So
way better.
Yeah, like I played the deck where every mana that I spent was just I added one more thing to Zenith Flare.
Yeah.
So like I would rather keep a hand that had some sort of threat, but my like threshold for being a threat was pretty low. Like it was Fox, Rescuer, Drain of Stinger, or we were playing the version that had Unlikely Alliance.
Yeah.
So any of those 16 cards I kind of counted as a threat. And then would play from having one of those 16. And even if I didn't have one, sometimes I'd be like, I'll cycle into it. Because a lot of times I didn't want to play my threat until turn 3.
Yeah, so you get some value.
So I would know I'd get the value off of it.
Yeah.
I kept a lot of hands that were a little bit of air and maybe only had a threat. And if it got killed, it was like, well, I got to dig for more stuff.
Yeah. So I did, for the most part, I did not keep a hand that didn't have one of Fox, Rescuer, or Alliance and could cast it.
Okay. That's another thing. You kept complaining about the mana.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
I thought the mana was terrible.
I didn't feel like I had any issues. Okay. There were definitely times where I wanted to cast Alliance and couldn't.
Yeah.
But then it was just like, well, I'm going to cycle enough stuff away that I'll find a source. You know, I don't think it was any more than a normal deck where like you couldn't cast your 2-drop if you wanted to.
I think that came back to how like aggressively I was mulliganing though.
Yeah.
I was trying to play this as an aggro deck, and I don't think that you can.
I think there are definitely draws where it's an aggro deck and you punk people out.
Yeah.
And then there are draws where it's just like grindy value deck that you like make a bunch of 1/1s and chump block and like get in damage. And then there are draws where you do that and you get your opponent to like 14 and then you play a 4-mana spell and kill them. It's really different because it feels like there are like three or four different ways the deck plays out. The draws that are double Fox against like a Karuga, if you're on the play, the game's over.
Yeah.
Like you go like Fox into Fox cycle attack. If they don't have a Bone Crusher Giant on turn 2, they just take 10 the next turn.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool, you're dead now.
Right.
Same with like Yorion. There are draws that you just do that and they die. But then there are other draws where you're just like, I'm just going to make a bunch of 1/1s and hope that's good enough.
Yeah.
I think that like how you play the deck is like, it's a heart of the cards deck. You have to hope that you cycle into the things that you need. Or like there have been times where it was like my opponent wrath my board with a Deafening Clarion and they attacked me with a Cavalier of Flame and a Sphinx of Insight. And they attacked, and I had 3 Unlikely Alliances.
Yeah.
And I cycled, and I drew another cycler, and I cycled
again.
And I killed their things. It was like I didn't have the second cycler, but like that was my out.
Right.
I was like, all right, well, let's see. Okay, cool. We got there. I still lost that because it can never beat a Kenrith. Like, not in a million years.
So how often did you like actually cast your Loris?
Never. Or very rarely.
Ever.
If you cast Loris, you have run out of things to cycle, or you are losing.
Right.
Like, Loris is kind of it's turn 15, you draw your card for turn, and it's not a cycler. Or it's a cycler and you have no board state, and you're like, I've got 7 mana, I can Loris, play a Rescuer, and then cycle and get a 1/1.
Yeah.
And like that's your turn. But like you never played Loris on like turn 4 through like 8.
Yeah.
Like, it just wasn't the best thing to do with your mana.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I ever cast Loris. I might have cast it once.
I cast it a few times where it was like, okay, I need to make my opponent have something.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I don't have any threats, but I can do the Loris Cycler get value, and now you have to have an answer, or like you get buried the next turn.
Yeah.
It's not a Loris deck like the Rakdos Sacrifice decks or the Orzhov like little weenie decks are.
Yeah.
It's a deck that doesn't need Loris, but there's no reason for you not to play it.
Yeah.
Because you just meet the requirement anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you might as well. So yeah, your main game plan isn't Loris. Like, Loris is like your F game plan.
Yeah.
Like, you've done...
Only if you're losing.
You've tried to, like, Fox Beatdown. You've tried tokens. You've tried to Drannith Stinger. They countered your Zenith Flare, and you're like, okay, fine. Loris, bring back something.
Yeah.
Like, this is where we are. Yeah, I definitely feel like that wasn't something that you did a whole lot. Mm-hmm. There are dumb things. I know that we talked about this. You were like, I don't like footfall creators, and, like, earlier that night, I had a 7/7 Fox, and I cast a footfall creators and attacked, and my opponent flashed in a chump blocker and blocked.
So you gave it trample.
And I gave it trample and got in 5 damage.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, about halfway through, I ended up cutting the footfall creators. I put Terramanders in. I think because of the way I was playing the deck, I wanted another like early threat so I didn't have to mulligan as aggressively.
Yeah.
And Terramanders kind of fit the theme.
Yeah.
They're not as great as the Cyclers, but they kind of do the same job.
I mulliganed like 1-landers on the play if I felt like I needed to have like a reasonably quick start.
Yeah.
Like that I didn't feel like the hand kind of lent itself to coming out of the gates. So like if it was against like mono red and like I had like a land and a threat or like a land in an unlikely alliance. It's like, well, if I don't draw a land, I do nothing and I die. So like I would mulligan those, but if I had like 2 or 3 lands and some cyclers, cool. I'm going to find the things that I need. And if I spend my first 2 turns, my first 3 mana cycling, that means my first Zenith Flare is Lightning Helix.
Right.
And that's good enough sometimes. You know, I know that the dream is like Zenith flaring someone's face, but like sometimes it's like, I will kill your Kenrith.
100%.
I will gain 8 life, kill your Kenrith, and I will get to participate in this game for a little while longer.
Yeah, I had played one of the 4-color Urian lists, one of the early ones, not one of the Luca lists. And I think I had talked to you a little bit about this game. We only played 1 game in a best-of-3 match. I mulled the 5, and then I decked them. Like, this game just went absurdly long. But I think I fought through like 6 Hydroid Crises that were all at least 8 power. And most of that I did with like just giant Zenith Flares.
You're like, Flare, all right, I'm going to attack you for 2 with my like 2 fairies.
Yeah. Oh, no, I had swarms.
Yeah, but it's one of those things like, I'm going to chip in for some damage. We're going to get there eventually. Yeah, the games can turn really grindy when you have like grindy in kind of a weird kind of way when you have like multiple like token generators because then everything that's on the ground doesn't have trample. Right. You doesn't matter. It's kind of like having like a cat, right? You know,
in a weird way,
yeah, the fires decks, they're like Cavalier of Flame, Karuga, give everything haste and attack, and you're like chump, and the next turn you're like attack you for 4. Cycle once, make 3 blockers, go. And they do something else giant, and you're like, cool, block. Yeah. Cycle, make some more blockers. The games, like I said, the games play out like in a lot of different ways, which was nice.
Was there anything in the deck that surprised you? Like it was better, like way better than you thought it was going to be, or way worse than you thought it was going to be?
I think I've mentioned a few times, Unlikely Alliance. Like a lot of the decks don't play that. Like the Boros ones play Memory Leak in its spot, just an additional 1 mana cycler. And they cut their land count substantially. But like that card kind of held the deck together because it gives you an extra threat.
Mm-hmm.
It lets you beat some decks that you wouldn't otherwise be able to beat. Like,
how often did you find yourself turning lands into fairies with the ability written on Unlikely Alliance?
If I had 6 lands and I didn't draw a cycler, yep.
Yeah, I did it way more often than I thought I would.
I did. I ended up doing it a lot where you'd get to points where you're just like, where you draw a card and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to get 2 fairies out of this 6 mana and like a freshie. Okay.
Yeah.
And the fact that you get to do that, like then the next turn, like you now have an extra draw at a cycler to then turn yourself back on. But yeah, that card was really good. Every so often, I would cast Frostveil Ambush.
That card is great.
I won a couple games with like Frost your 2 big things, attack for 8, attack for 8.
Oh, see, I never did that. Frosted on their turn, swing 8, swing 8. Yeah,
just like they go to combat and you're like, frost those things.
Yeah.
Attack you. They don't untap, attack you. Like it would just buy you a turn or buy you enough combat steps to actually like get there.
Mm-hmm.
So that card was good. What is the thing? The thing that makes something a 4/4?
Make a thing a 4/4, yeah.
But it also makes it blue. We learned that the hard way. I attacked into a Shifty Ceratops.
Oh, no.
And I was like, he blocked. I was like, gotcha. I was like, do that. And it didn't die. And I was like, oh, it becomes blue.
Oh, it's blue.
Oh, because he blocked my 3/1. I was like, sweet. Like, I need to get it off. Oh, no. So
I finished the game like a turn earlier than I would have ordinarily by making my Fox a 4/4.
With like 7 counters on it.
Yeah.
So this little part of this is this deck kind of requires you to use like every part of the buffalo.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Like you can't just say like all these cards say cycling 1 because sometimes your opponent like, pluses a Teferi and you can like on your turn make your thing a 4/4 and attack it down.
Right.
Or you have a 3/3 Fox and they play a 2/2 and you can just cast Go for Blood and kill it.
Mm-hmm.
These cards have more text on them than just cycle 1.
They have barely more text, but yes, they have more text.
That is their main text is cycling 1. Yeah. But you can get them to do other things. Like every so often I was like, I really wish I could cast this Boon to the Wishgiver. It was never right.
I cast it once.
Okay, I never got to cast it.
I boarded it out almost every single time, but I did cast it once.
Yeah, the Martin uses sideboard guide was Footfall Craters, and that always left. Yeah. And then it was how many startling development? Is that it?
Yeah.
How many of those do you cut in this matchup? But it was always cut the 2/2s and then some number of startling developments. Yeah. The token generators were also really good against the flash decks. I had multiple like flash opponents where I was able to stick a token generator and they scooped.
The token generators are also really good against the Obosh decks.
Yeah, because you just throw them in front of things. They have no way to get over them.
Yeah, they can't play Embercleave. Nothing has evasion, and they just gum up the ground until you kill them.
Yeah, you just keep doing that. Now, they do have, what is it called? Is it 10 Street Dodger?
The unblockable one?
Yeah. The unblockable one. I lost a game to, I was at 13, and they had 3 Heraldic banners out.
Whew.
And they attacked with everything, which was dumb. And, I blocked with my Loris and gained 3 life and went to 16 and then went to exactly 0. And I was like, oh. Yeah, I could not block that. But everything else in the deck, you just throw a 1/1 in front of. And they just can't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's good against Obosh. They're pretty good against the sack deck. So when I was playing best of 1, I played a ton of the sacrifice decks. Like a ton of like...
I didn't play one game against sacrifice.
Yeah, and then when you went to best of 3, it was like nothing. Like, the best of 3 metagame just, like, dissolved into, like, Yorion.
Yes. Yeah, it's almost all Yorion.
It was so weird, because just looking at, like, one day, I played against, like, 3 Obosh sack decks, 3 red-black Loris decks. I think there's like a black-white one in here somewhere. Right, so I played against a bunch of those. Like a quarter of my metagame that day was like Loris decks. And then when I went to best of 3, yeah, Loris, like there weren't Loris sacrifice decks.
No.
Like it was just like all Urian all the time.
Yep.
I think that this deck I think the cycling deck is good.
Yeah.
If you are playing it like an aggro deck or like a mid-range deck where you want to look at your hand and like know what you're going to do for your first like turn or two, I don't think you can play the deck like that. I think you kind of have to play it like, I'm going to see 6 new cards in the first 3 turns, and then from there I'm going to figure out what to do.
That might have been why I got a little bit burned out on it too.
What, just the like, they have to like hope that things work out part of it?
Well, a combination of that and like not playing it correctly. I didn't even realize I wasn't playing it correctly until like I was just done playing it.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I ran across like 2 mirror matches like right at the tail end. And I don't even think I recorded them because I was just kind of fed up with the deck at that point. And I noticed that they didn't mulligan at all, and they kept hands with no action. And then like that kind of got my wheels turning a little bit, thinking that, you know, I might not have played the deck correctly. But I think that's why I burned out on it, though. I was just, you know, trying to, you know, being the Jund player, trying to come up, like look at my opening hand to come up with my game plan, and realizing that you can't do that because it's all going to change after your second turn.
Yeah. So the like Martin Yu's deck guide, one of the things he said was like, just spend every mana every turn cycling.
Yeah.
And that was just every turn I was like, well, I'm going to cycle. And like I said, it was just like, this is like a time bomb. And eventually I'm going to draw the bomb, which is Zenith Flare. And every 1 mana I spend makes my Zenith Flare a little bit better.
Yeah.
And when
I mean, I definitely played it that way. I just like mulliganed a lot to like where my cycling always mattered and didn't feel like I was just spinning my wheels.
Yeah. I feel like this deck also, like, you play a lot of games to like 10. Your opponent's got to deal you 20, but like you have to deal 10, especially like any hand where you open with a Zenith Flare, like you have your plan. It's, I need to find some way to get you to 10. And then I'm going to win the game when you are at 10.
Right.
And those games were comforting when you just had the Zenith Flare and you're like, oh, I know exactly what's going on here. This is great. The games where you didn't, and you're like, you're on your 30th card in your deck, and you still haven't drawn a Zenith Flare, and you're like, how is this possible? I've seen half my deck.
There's only 3 cards left in your deck, and you haven't found a Zenith Flare yet.
You're like, what is going on? Okay, I'm like looking at your like lists, your deck names, and I just see in here, in one of your off-meta decks, Karuga Winoda. Like,
yeah.
Whoa, wow.
Yep.
Wow, we did it.
I've played against some interesting lists.
Yeah, just like
Did you see what it says before that?
Martyr Humans?
No, the same line says Fires. Nope, Karuga Winoda. Because I thought it was Fires.
Oh, I wasn't looking at your like notes. I was just looking at the like cheat.
Oh, yeah. No, in my notes it says Fires / Nope Karuga Winoda.
Yeah, like that's another thing. Like, so there's only like 2 decks that don't, 2 like actual on meta decks that don't seem to play a companion.
Yeah.
And that's Winoda and Teamerek.
Yep.
And like, you like sit down and you're like, all right, no companion. And like, let's say you just played like Teamerek, you're like, all right, it's Teamerek time. And you like start playing like playing as Teamerek, and then they like play a Thibblethip. And you're like,
what is this?
Yeah, I had no idea. And then they played like a Legion Warboss. I'm like, what garbage is? And I went, oh, it's when. And then like they took 3 of my permanents, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
Oops.
Yeah. So like the upside for this deck is, other than the mana base, which has I guess 16 rares in it.
Yeah.
There are like no rares in the deck. So like 16 rares is like not the cheapest, but not awful.
Well, I mean, aside from the the 4 Jeskai lands, you probably have the others. Like, if you've already been playing Arena.
Yeah, you probably have the shock lands.
Yeah.
And for the Popper event, that was the FNM at home or whatever.
Yeah.
I just played Cycling.
Mm-hmm.
I just took out Zenith Flare, took out the Rescuer, and the win con was Dranith Stinger, and then like tap lands, and the deck was fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna guess that when they do the Artisan event, they ban Zenith Flare.
Probably.
But if you want a deck that is aggressive but takes a little bit of like doing to figure out, like takes some playing and has some play to it, I think Cycling is good, and it's not gonna like break the bank wildcard wise.
Yeah.
If you are kind of hard up for wildcards, you can play the Boros version, which you cut the Unlikely Alliances, which card's really good. Yeah. But you cut those so you have less blue mana requirements. Like you're just stone not casting any blue cards.
Yeah, you're basically red-white.
Yeah. And like that's fine. But you do lose something for not being able to cast, like you said, your random blue card for effect by not having any blue lands, but it would make it easier for you to build it.
Yeah.
Because it
mana
cuts,
based wise.
Yeah, it cuts like 8 rares out.
Yeah, I mean, they're like the only rares you have are the Sacred Foundries at that point, right?
Yeah. You'd probably keep the Cycling lands. Like you'd probably just cut Steam Vents and Hollowed Fountain.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But you would be down to like, only 8 rares in the deck.
Right.
So it's a deck. It's good matchups. Or its good matchup is Yorion Luca, because you can just like hilariously get under them. Mm-hmm.
I had one awesome game. Just a real quick story against Gyruda deck.
Okay.
It was a Gyruda ramp.
Okay.
Like they were just turbo Gyruda. And they cast like a turn 3 Gyruda. And they found Spark Double, Spark Double, Spark Double, Spark Double, Thassa, Flicker Gyruda. And then I untap, played a land, and hit him with a 22-point Zenith Flare.
Oh. I figured that's where that was going, because your graveyard had to be huge.
Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, but you definitely, like, against that deck, you can do that, or you can go, like, your best aggressive draws are any hand that has a Fox is probably a keeper.
Yeah.
Like, a Fox and 2 lands is the nuts against Standard, basically.
Yeah, that was the hand I wanted every single time I looked at an opener.
Yeah, like that hand is the nuts. But like, they're like Karuga, and you're like, Fox, cycle, hit you for 3. Next turn, cycle, hit you for 6. Yeah. And now they're at 11. And if they, like, their best answer is Teferi bounce at that point.
Right.
And if they don't have Teferi, they just, like, they either have to throw a Bone Crusher Giant in front of it, or they die. Mm-hmm. And if they do have a Teferi, you're like, all right, I can either replay this or
I can cycle it and look for a Zenith Flare.
Exactly. And this, like, okay, you're at 11. You can never, like, if you resolve a fires, you just die.
Yeah, on the spot.
Yeah, if, like, your turn 4 is fires, it's like, cool, cycle, land, flare you for 11. And there's just like, oh, I didn't, like, nothing I did mattered this game because you had the Fox.
Right.
But then you can also win the grindy, like, token games. So I think it's a deck worth looking at if you don't want to get into the, like, Yorion arms race. Which
is a good way to put it.
Which is currently going on because, everyone's just trying to go over the top of everyone else, which is usually when, like, a red deck would come into being. Or, like, an aggressive deck is because everyone's just trying to go bigger than everyone else. But the problem is the Yorion decks go big on, like, turn 5.
Yeah.
Or, like...
too early.
Yeah, or they, like I said, they have, like, 8 Wraths they can draw. And, like, you're like, build out a board state. And they're like, wipe it away. Which is another reason, like, Fox is good, because you can be like, all right, my Fox is a 4-power thing now. Now you can't Clarion it. Now you have to have Now I've cut down your number of cards down to 4.
Yeah.
And because you're a Luca deck, it like game 1 you dodge Elspeth Conquers Death. Because there's only one target for it in the whole deck, and it's Loris.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to cast that card. And like I've beat double Dream Trawler.
That's impressive.
They played a Dream Trawler, and I was like, attack you. They're like, block. It's like, cool, you blocked wrong, sucker. 12-point Zenith Flare. Good talk, everyone. It's like, you're just like, the deck also, we talked about combat math not being a thing anymore. This deck makes you do combat math, but you're doing the math of like, all right, if I attack, how much damage do I get in? Is that enough for me to flare them? Like,
you're doing less combat math and more like burn math.
Yeah, you're like, you look at it
these
like
7 cards add to 20.
Yeah, I need to get you from where you are to 10, and you die. Oh, another thing to think about is making chump attacks where you know they're going to block your cyclers so that your Zenith Flare gets bigger.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Yeah, so let's say they're at 13 and you attack with your 2/2 cycler, your 3/1 and 3/1/1s. They have 2 blockers. They block the 3/1 and the 2/2. Now your flare goes
them out of the game.
Yeah, now your flare goes from 8 to 10. They're at 10, you kill them. So like doing things like that where you wouldn't necessarily think about like, oh hey, I need this cycler to die. So I have to attack in such a way that they're going to block. Or like, hey, doesn't matter how they block. If they block and kill the cycler, they're dead. If they don't block, they're dead. Attack. So you definitely have these like those times where you're doing things that you don't normally do, where you're like, oh, if this dies, this makes my flare bigger, or things like that. So it's fun. It might not be your thing if you're kind of a Jundi, like make a plan kind of player.
The deck was fine. It's not that I didn't like playing it. It got old quickly, I think.
Yeah. You played way more than I did. I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, so I've been like getting my wins and then like ducking out.
Yeah, I did give up. I stopped playing like Thursday or Friday maybe.
Okay.
I think I stopped playing this.
You went super hard.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make sure I gave it my due diligence.
Yeah, I went hard best of 1, and then I just started playing a couple and then stopping a couple and stopping.
Yeah.
So we've been asked to adopt a new deck.
We have by one of our patrons, so we're going to jump on that.
So what are we playing?
They would like us to play he had a specific version. I'll have to look it up and see which specific version he asked for, but he wants us to play Yori and Luca.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I tried a teamer version because I thought I could ramp harder, and you can, but then it's just super awkward sometimes.
Yep.
I'm going to say I also learned, reading the cards and all, that it has to be a higher converted mana cost with Luca. So I set up an entire turn with a stupid teamer deck. And I was like, all right, I'm going to play this Agent of Treachery, then I'm going to activate Luca, and I'm going to steal something, and I activated Luca, and Agent of Treachery went to the exile zone, and nothing happened. And I was like, I should have read the card.
Yeah. Usually helps.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out timelines here so that we could play alongside everybody else if they wanted to join in with our little experiment here. And I originally said that I think we should do another deck in the meantime. Okay. That way, when this episode goes live, we can move on to Luca. But then we wouldn't ever cover the deck in the meantime.
Yeah.
So I think that we'll just play whatever until Thursday-ish.
Okay.
And then when this deck goes live, we can start playing it Thursday, play through the weekend with everybody else, and then we'll
share
talk
our
about
thoughts
it on Monday.
Sure.
Yep.
So I think that is the deck we've adopted. So now on to Arena.
Yeah, what's going on with Arena?
Nothing too earth-shattering, but I was listening to another podcast, Magic FM, and they I missed is a strong term. I chose not to participate in the what's it, Magic Today, the Twitch show that Wizards does on Tuesdays. And they did kind of an arena dev thing.
Yeah.
And apparently they announced, it's not in any of the social media, but Magic FM, Gabby went back and listened to the VOD of the Twitch thing, and they basically announced that cube drafts will be coming to Arena on June 12th.
Sweet. So are we assuming that's when the June update's going to be?
Probably right around there, yeah.
Okay.
So that will be, if you like cubed sealed, which it was decent.
Yeah, you said you liked it the more you played it, right?
Yeah, it grew on me. It was definitely like a 4-color good stuff thing, but that's like just because of the power level of the cards. And
that's also right
sealed.
up your alley.
Yeah. But like being able to actually draft archetypes.
Yeah.
And like, at least initially, they're probably not going to release what the archetypes are in the cube. So trying to figure out what the archetypes are in the cube will be really good. And maybe we can get some sweet, sweet content for talking about cube drafting.
Sure. I'm down for that.
Yeah. So
as long as people want to hear about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's cube. They want to hear about it. They might not know they want to hear about it. They want to hear about it.
Sure.
They want to hear about it.
Have you been keeping up with the daily deals section?
I've checked it. This weekend was no free money.
There was a pack?
Yeah, they did cheap packs.
Yeah.
They did a Dominaria pack. I bought the Aquaria pack when they did a cheap Aquaria pack like 2 weeks ago. But they did like a Dominaria and then I think another pack. And I was kind of like, meh, I'm good.
Yeah, I got them both.
Yeah, they were like 60,
300.
Yeah, 60 gems or 300 gold, which is way less than they normally are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was a little disappointed this weekend wasn't free money, but they still have me roped in that I check every day.
Yeah, I've been checking. Oh, one other thing we forgot to talk about. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick.
Uh-oh.
They released the historic cards.
Oh, yeah. So there were the Hondens.
Yep, we got all the Hondens because we needed those.
So we just said they're the Hondens, and like everyone's like, we're not that old. So
they were Champions cards.
Yeah, Champions of Kamigawa, and they're enchantments that do something on your upkeep. So like Honden of Rage deals 1 damage or something.
Damage to target creature or player equal to the number of shrines you control.
Okay. So they all do different things. I don't know.
Equal to the number of shrines you control.
Okay.
They're each a shrine.
Yes.
A legendary shrine.
So they're legendary?
They are legendary, yes.
So like you can't just have 4 red Hondens. You have to like play like 5 color Hondens?
Yes.
Kill me.
Yeah.
Seems awful. So we
have Akroma's Memorial.
Oh God.
Gives everything keyword soup.
I think I have brought it up that I was playing at like the 1-4 table at the ill-fated Charlotte Modern GP where I was playing black-white tokens in the format that was just all Anger of the Gods all the time. And my Elves opponent, another matchup that tokens is like 0% against, plays an Akroma's Monument. It's like 8 years old, plays an Akroma's Monument, and then afterwards lectures me about how I need to value my life total more because I fetch Shock Thought seized him. And I was like, that's what I'm supposed to do. And then when I see it's elves, I just can't ever win. I was just like, I will take that under advisement, good sir.
Thanks,
you played in Akroma's Monument and gave all of your elves every keyword.
Flying, First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, Haste, Protection from Black, Protection from Red.
Yeah. You know what? A Bitter Blossom can't beat that. What color are those tokens? You dead. Oh, cool. Didn't matter if they weren't black. I was still gonna get Trample First Struck. Okay, cool. Yeah. So that card. Bad thoughts. Okay. Continuing.
We have Ancient Ziggurat.
All right.
Modern Human staple.
It's a land that taps for a mana of any color, but only to play multicolored spells.
Only to play creature spells.
Creature spells, okay. There's a multicolored one. Okay, creature spells. Okay.
Then we have Body Double, which is a 5 mana clone for graveyards.
Yeah, it clones any creature in a graveyard.
Correct.
Which...
Chainer's Edict. Yeah.
This is a sorcery speed one.
Yeah.
That is a Pauper.
Flashback for 7 mana, though.
That is a Pauper staple.
Yeah.
Like blue-black control and Pauper plays Chainer's Edict.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. None of these cards are Pioneer legal.
That is true. None of these cards thus far are Pioneer legal. None of, just none. Oh, there's one.
Ulamog.
2, 3, 3. There's 3 that are Pioneer legal.
Sparky, give us Pioneer. Stop giving us Hondens and give us Pioneer.
Yeah. We have Devil's Play.
Okay.
X and a red for a sorcery. Deals X damage to a creature or player. Flashback for X red, red, red.
Okay.
Enchantress's Presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't give us our Argothian Enchantress. No.
No. We get the enchantment instead.
Yeah.
We have Gem Palm Incinerator and Gem Palm Polluter.
Okay, I know Gem Palm Incinerator. It cycles for like 1 in a red.
1 in a red.
And it deals 2?
Or X, where X is the number of goblins in play when it ETBs. Or when you cycle it.
When you cycle it.
Yeah. And then Gem Palm Polluter, when you cycle it, you can have a player lose 1 life for each zombie in play.
Okay.
And then we have all of the Hondens. I'm not going to read them all. They're all bad.
They're all unplayable.
We have Croson Tusker.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
That card has been replaced by the one from Amonkhet as the good one. I guess the one from Amonkhet costs 1 more.
It does, yeah.
But it's better.
It is better. After that, we get Momentary Blink.
Okay.
1 in a white, blink something, flashback for 3 in a blue.
Yes, another Pauper All-Star.
Yep. And then we have our first of these to be Pioneer legal.
Okay.
Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Maze's End.
Whew.
Yeah.
So that is if you control 10 gates and you tap Maze's End, you win the game or something?
You pay 3 and tap it and bounce it to your hand.
Okay.
And then you search your library for a gate, put it on the battlefield, and then if you control 10 or more gates with different names, you win the game.
So it's like, does it come into play tapped?
It does.
So it's just Thawing Glaciers for gates that has like an extra thing tacked on?
No, Thawing Glaciers doesn't go get you a land, does it?
It does.
I guess I don't know what Thawing Glaciers does.
Thawing Glaciers was like the original fetch lane, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, maybe.
So this is an old card from Alliances.
Yeah, I mean, I can picture the artwork.
Right.
I thought it like kept something tapped.
Comes into play tap, pay 1, tap, search your library for a basic land and put that onto the battlefield tapped. This does not count towards your 1 land per turn limit. Shuffle your library afterwards. At the end of turn, return Thawing Glaciers to its owner's hand.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of the same thing, but with you win.
You win the game tacked onto it, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew like you won the game if you had a certain number of gates. Card seems bad, but okay. Maze's End.
Way back when there was a Turbo Fog deck that won with this.
Yeah. Yay. That's what we want to encourage in all formats is Turbo Fog.
Yeah. After that, we have Mirari's Wake.
This
3 green, white for an enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of that color to your mana pool.
This got some hot Twitter action. Ari Lax was like, why are they putting this in Historic? It would be the 4th best Mirari's Wake in Standard right now.
That's true.
It's like, someone's like, 4th? It's like, yes, Fires, Nissa, Wilderness Reclamation, then Mirari's Wake.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. It would be the 4th best Mirari's Wake. Like, yeah. Hey, you know what Historic needs? A card that's not standard playable, that has 3 other versions of it.
Yeah, good job.
Good job, guys.
We also get Ratchet Bomb.
Yeah.
I like Ratchet Bomb.
Ratchet Bomb, yeah. I have registered Ratchet Bomb in a Legacy event.
I have I can talk today too. I have registered Ratchet Bomb in multiple events, multiple formats.
Yeah. So this is 2 for an artifact that you tap it and you put a ratchet counter on it. I don't know.
Charge
counter, and then you can tap and sacrifice it and destroy all permanents with that many.
Yep.
With the CMC equal to the number of charge counters.
Yep. Non-land permanents. For the record, ratchet counter sounds pretty good. It does, yeah.
Yo, how ratchet are you? I'm 2 ratchet right now, thank you. 2 ratchet.
I got to get 3 ratchet.
I gotta get to that ratchet cubed, and then we're good.
That's right.
All right.
We got a Roar of the Worm. 6 and a green sorcery. Make a 6/6 worm. Flashback for 3 and a green.
Okay. So, pro tip: you never cast a spell for the front side.
No. You mill it and then you pay 4.
You mill it, or it's like Cathartic Reunion time or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, something. Silent Departure. It's 1 blue for a sorcery. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Flashback.
Okay.
I don't know why Historic needed that.
What is it flashback for?
4 and a blue.
Okay. Oh yeah, these are the Innistrad ones that the flashback costs were like ridiculous.
Swan Song.
Oh yeah.
I like me some Swan Song. That's a good one.
From the original Theros, is a blue for an instant. That's like counter target non-creature spell.
Enchantment, instant, or sorcery.
Okay, enchantment, and that spell's controller gets a 2/2 Swan.
Yep.
With flying.
It's a great counter spell for like combo decks that don't care about the Swan.
Yeah, there's just like whatever Swan, who cares? You're dead.
Yeah. We get Timely Reinforcements.
Okay.
That's a good one.
So you're 2 and a white for a sorcery. If you have less life than your opponent, you gain 6 life. If you have less creatures than your opponent, you get 3 1/1 soldiers. And if you have both, you get 6 life and 3 1/1s.
Yep. That's great.
Yes. Back in my days of playing Modern Burn, that just like you just scoop them up. Because you always have more creatures than they do, and they have less life than you do, and you're just like, God, I can't win now.
Well, there were also a lot of people in our little burn group that really liked to play blue and white, and they always packed Timely Reinforcements.
Yeah. It was always multiple timelies. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have Tectonic Reformation from Modern Horizons. 1 and a red for enchantment. Each land in your hand has cycling red, and it cycles for 2 colorless.
Wow, I did not even know about that card.
Yeah, we talked about it in our set review.
Yeah, but I don't remember it. You're like saying it, and I'm like...
Oh. That card already exists?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay, I believe you. I was just like... Okay, and it's also like super weird, like, why are they putting this card in Historic?
I have no idea. I don't know why they're putting most of these cards in Historic.
Well, apparently...
I was still out the assumption that Historic was going to turn into Pioneer, and obviously that's not the case.
Yeah, no, they've talked... they had one of the producer of the of Arena on Limited Resources, and he was talking about how Historic, it's just going to be its own thing that exists. But apparently they're also making... they decided to make a Historic queue, an all-the-time Historic ranking. So, like, you can rank up in Historic. Yes.
Separate from Constructed?
I think so.
Huh.
Yeah, so apparently Tectonic Reformation is apparently also in the Commander 2020.
Oh, okay.
So maybe they're trying to... Maybe this is something for, like, Historic Brawl where they're trying to support, like, a cycling deck.
Oh, maybe. That could be.
Because...
Strange, though.
What is it? Riley Knight just had put out a video today before we started recording.
Yeah.
That was a Brawl with the blue-red mythic that whenever you discard a card, you draw a card.
Oh.
So maybe they're trying to like that as like a Brawl commander.
Yeah, it could be.
And then you just like draw everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
4 cards left.
4 cards left.
Tempered Steel. 1 white for an enchantment. Artifact creatures you control get +2/+2.
Okay. Sure.
Yep. We have Unburial Rites.
Hey.
4 and a black for a sorcery. Reanimate something. Flash it back for 3 and a white.
We don't have Gristledead yet. Like, Gristledead's in the program, but he's not in Historic.
Nope. We do have Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, though.
We do. And we have Cathartic Reunion and Thrill of Possibilities.
And Tormenting Voice, right?
Yeah, I feel a deck coming on here.
And Haggle.
Oh, yeah. We just need to give this Ulamog haste.
Yeah. How do we do that?
I don't know yet. We're going to get there, though. There's got to be a Planeswalker that just has a static ability. All your creatures have haste, isn't there?
Samut.
Samut, there we go.
Or Samut.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
We did it.
It also gives it +2/+1.
Yeah, in case your 10/10 indestructible eat a third of your library needed more. Okay.
And then one more card. We have Phyrexian Obliterator.
Okay, we talked about him last time.
Yep.
So
that's all of them.
Just seems like they just have a wall somewhere in Wizards where they just have every card, and they like take Morrow. They have him drink 3 cups of coffee, put him in a blindfold. They spin him around, and he throws a dart. And he hit the red Honden, and they were like, crap. I guess we have to put the other ones in. And then he throws another dart, and it's like he hits some random Modern Horizons card, and they're like, sure.
Tag, you're it. Go time, buddy.
Yeah, they're just like, whatever. Like, people will figure this out. Yeah. But yeah,
very strange.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
This is where we live. It's just Morrow randomly throwing darts and going, why is Standard broken?
Fire design.
Yeah. Fire design.
All of the darts have fire written on the side of them.
We're going to make historic fire. Hondens, go. Mirari's Wake. Don't we have 3 better the card in Standard?
Doesn't matter.
Mirari's Wake. Tempered Steel. So you want the artifact deck to be white? Like, yes. Like, I want people to play Ginger Brute, All That Glitters, and Tempered Steel. That's all I want. Go, go, go.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a curve, by the way.
That's terrifying.
Like, you have like an 8/8 that's unblockable on turn 4.
That you can sacrifice for 3 life if you need to.
If things go that bad. Man, I got this 8/8. Better sack it for 3 life.
Yep. Oh, man.
So there are our Historic Anthology 3. Our dream that maybe they would start putting like some Pioneer cards in.
Well, I mean, they did. We got Maze's End.
You do realize that I think this is something that we might be lost on me and you. That like there are people that love like Maze's End.
Yeah.
Like there is someone right now who's like, I am so playing Maze's End in Historic Brawl. Like we're doing this. They're super excited. Right?
Visit Gates deck.
Yeah. Or someone's gonna scape shift into Maze's End.
Yeah.
Like they're just gonna be so happy, and you and I are like, why is this here? And there's someone somewhere who's like, this is great.
This is everything I've ever wanted.
Yeah. And it's like you have very low bar of things you've wanted. Yeah. But yeah. So I think a lot of these are probably geared more towards like Brawl.
Could very well be.
Like I don't know how these turn out to be like the thing that like has staved Historic to some degree is no one cares.
Right.
Right? Like I think if like they said, you know, next month that we're doing a Mythic Championship and it's going to be all on Arena and it's going to be historic, you would end up with like 3 busted decks out of Historic.
Yeah.
And the format would be solved and people would be like sad. But the fact that it just kind of exists and no one pays attention to it lets you like, you know, not feel bad when you like sign up with your
Maze's End deck.
Maze's End, or you're like, Daddy's playing Treasure Hunt today.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're like, you know what? Cool. I'm gonna play Treasure Hunts, 4 Treasure Hunts, and 1 Thassa's Oracle. Right? And you're like, yep, that's what I want to do. And it's like,
does Treasure Hunt draw, or does it put in hand?
It puts in hand. Do you want to Narset someone? You monster.
No, I was thinking about the make an octopus thing for my Ikoria. Just draw your deck, make 30 power worth of octopi.
You have to pay 1 mana, though.
So?
We have to play 1 mana each time you draw the card. You wouldn't have all that mana out.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do. Nadir Kraken? Or...
Oh, no. I was talking about the enchantment.
Ominous
the enchantment
Seas.
from Ikoria.
Oh, yeah. Ominous Seas. Yeah. We would just get to make a bunch of octopi.
Yeah.
But no, it sadly does not draw.
Oh, well.
So, yeah. So, I don't know what anyone's doing with these cards. Again, someone's happy. I don't want to make them sad. Someone's
Tectonic
happy.
Reformation makes all your lands cycle.
It does. But they don't count as having cycling when they're in your graveyard, unfortunately. So they don't count for Zenith Flare.
No, but they do for Ominous Seas.
Oh, you're right. There you go. So yeah, we could just we could do that.
And Treasure Hunt.
And Treasure. So I'm gonna play Treasure Hunt, but now all my lands have cycling for red.
Right.
So okay. Cool.
I don't know. You just got to find a way to make some red mana. It's like Ironcrag Feet.
I'm gonna pay 1 red to make red, and I'm gonna cycle 7 cards. Hey, it gets around that you can only cast 1 more spell that turn. You could just cast another Ironcrag Feat and cycle 10 cards.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's perfect.
There we go.
You get to make 2 octopi.
You do. You did it. So somewhere someone doesn't know that we're joking and they're like, all right, Ironcrag Feat, check. I'm gonna see. Yeah, they're just like going through. Like, this content's gold. Like, no, bring it back a little bit.
Anyways,
so with that, I think we can look forward to Cube and maybe not forward to Hondan Tribal in Historic.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to play Honda Tribal.
There you go. So sad. So
Cube
sad.
will be cool, though.
Yeah. What'll be cool?
Cube.
Yeah. Definitely looking
and
forward
hopefully
to
it works well and they can do, because I know they kind of wanted to test it out with Cube and then do like some of the remastered sets.
Yeah.
So hopefully it works out well with Cube and we get some of the remastered sets.
Or, I don't know, Vintage Cube. Come on.
Oh, man. One time.
Come on. You can put the storm mechanic in there. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Brian, what's your storm record? What's your Vintage Cube record? Awful, but I've drafted Storm every single time. It's been
1 in 30.
Great. I'm 1 in 30. But that one time I stormed off out of nowhere and it was great.
Yep. Made it worth it.
So, I think at an hour 45, we're done. So, if you want to tweet deck ideas at us, you can get at us at Twitter at CasualTryPod, or if you have like sweet ideas for your for these Hondans and other historic cards that we have poo-pooed. Yeah. You can be like,
prove us wrong.
You haven't seen this? And I can be like, I have not.
Didn't one of the Hondans like randomly see a little bit of play though?
Maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I don't know either. If you know, you can get a hold of us on Facebook at CasualTryHardMTG. You can shoot us an email at show@CasualTryHardMTG.com. Don't forget about our TCG player affiliate link, tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com. Anything you purchase from TCG after following that link will, very small portion of it will help to support the show. We have our Patreon at patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG, and make sure to check out our Discord server and try and get everybody talking in there.
Yeah. So with that, I guess we will
see you at pre-release this weekend.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I might just catch you on the interwebs.
Yeah. I'll be out at pre-release this weekend.
All right. Take it easy, everyone.